case, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the big boy desk today because it's finals night, and we've got Adrian Wojnarowski. Welcome back from the bubble and joining the show. We've got Jay Will. His feet are still not touching the ground.
Yes, okay, though.
Jalen Rose, the cut is still fresh, and Uncle P, Paul Pierce, brought his ring with him.
The rings and things you think about, Paul Pierce can bring him out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, we got championship energy. Let's keep it rolling because we've got the keys to the game as we get into this one between the Lakers and the Heat. One challenge for the Heat will be protecting the paint, especially against LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They've averaged 20 points combined near the rim this postseason. Over the last 20 years, the only duo to average more entering the finals is Kobe and Shaq. That was back in 2001. It's a season that ended in the duo's second NBA title. And this is where it really gets interesting for Miami. Even with the presence of Bam, the Heat ranked 25th in field goal percentage allowed in the restricted area. But the one positive for the Heat is that they do not allow many shots near the rim, giving up the third fewest attempts per game. Before we dig into the X's and O's, let's talk a little bit of big picture, Woj, because in a lot of ways, LeBron James and Pat Riley have shaped the way we view the NBA now. When LeBron decided to move to Miami and start that super team and began to win championships, and now Pat Riley's doing it a different way because he's having to build through the draft.
Absolutely. LeBron James and Pat Riley fundamentally, it changed the NBA a decade ago when Riley put together the big three with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, how teams were built, how they went big game hunting. And what LeBron James changed were how players, star players, looked at free agency. And after LeBron James went to Miami, it changed the way how players approached it. They could go where they wanted, when they wanted, and play with who they wanted. And it opened the doors for a lot of other players to make those decisions. Now, LeBron James back in LA, where Pat Riley started winning titles, and Riley 10 years later with a Miami team that was built far differently than gathering up stars in free agency.
And Jalen, we love to talk about how LeBron ended up in Miami, but we don't talk as much about the fact that he left Miami and what that did to that organization and whether or not that's any point of motivation for Spo and this team going against the Lakers.
I promise you guys, Pat Riley loves coaching Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dwayne Wade, and Shaquille O'Neal. But if he can't have all-time great players, he loved to have this blue-collar type of team to play against LeBron James, to bring a sense of toughness, to bring a sense of discipline, and a sense of physicality. And I know Paul Pierce loves this. Ain't gonna be no fraternizing. Ain't gonna be no helping the opponent up off the floor. This is gonna be what Pat Riley always wanted when LeBron James decided to leave, is you leaving us to go win a championship. I'm going to show you I can build one without you. I did it before you. I'm going to do it after you. And that's what this is all about.
Listen, nobody expect Miami to be here. I mean, yeah, they work hard and they earned this spot here. But nobody expected that. And just give a hats off to Spoelstra and Riley for putting a team like this together. Jimmy Butler, I mean, how good does he feel right now?
Great.
I mean, making a choice, leaving Minnesota, leaving Philly, and now he's playing in the finals with the Miami Heat. You know, Riley's done it as a coach. He's done it as a GM. Now, let's see if he can do it again.
You know, it's interesting, too, you talk a lot about the motivation for the Heat, Eric Spoelstra, proving to the world that, hey, I can win championships without LeBron. You talk about Pat Riles. But also, the thing about LeBron James knows his ears is always to the street. He listens to what people have to say. He uses that as motivation, right? We talk about it being petty, but we're all petty in a degree when it comes time to be competitive. Remember this line: smiley faces with hidden agendas. That's what Pat Riley said about LeBron James publicly when he decided to go back home to Cleveland to win a world championship. So just know there's extra motivation for LeBron James, too, as much as there is for the Miami Heat.
Obviously, LeBron James looking for his 4th NBA title this season and trying to do it against the Miami Heat team that he's very familiar with, an organization that he's familiar with, that he's won titles and MVPs with. But we also talked about Jimmy Butler already. He's getting ready. He's on his bike trying to roll something out. We already invested in Big Face Coffee. Uncle P said he would do it.
If they win the championship, I'm going to be the majority investor.
We don't actually know what that means.
And I look for him to have a pretty big series.
Well, among that Miami Heat young group, Isaiah, they've got a gentleman by the name of Bam Adebayo who has figured out how to go from other to all-star quite quickly.
Yeah, when you look at Bam, he Anthony Davis, they have very similar games. And what I mean by that, they both can handle the basketball. They both can play on the perimeter. They both are excellent passers. And they both can initiate offense. They like to play in the low post and also at the mid post. Bam is very good passer from the high post. So, Davis has the height advantage. But, when you look at these two players, they're very similar. Miami offense runs through Bam. He is their primary decision maker from the high post. They trust him with the basketball. And we saw in that last series, at the end of the game, they gave him the basketball to basically break down his man one-on-one, came back, had a big closeout game. So I look for Bam and Anthony Davis to really match up strong. And in the zone, Kenny, when you talked about the Lakers having to face the zone, look for Anthony Davis to be a great offensive rebounder in this series because he'll hang around the basket. And as we know, Miami's zone, they like to play their two small guards in the back, and the bigs will have a field day around the glass, a missed shot. So offensive rebounding will be a key in this series if Miami stays in the zone.
Well, we will certainly watch those numbers along with the...
It's pretty much better than the regular season numbers he's had this year and his career playoff numbers, which have been unbelievable special. And he's locked in because the one thing I like right now is how he's finishing games, especially how he's finished the last game versus the Denver Nuggets.
Stephanie, coming up in a bit, Steve Smith sits down with Andre Iguodala. I'll chat with both head coaches who are just entering the building. I'll have a one-on-one with Coach Vogel and Coach Spoelstra, and we'll check back in with you live here courtside in Orlando.
Cannot wait. You guys keep it up. Appreciate you so much and all your effort. Okay, Kenny the Jet Smith, I promised we'd get right back to you. We had to kind of release Jared because, as he just mentioned, he has so many things to get done while we're still here on the air. I want to talk to you about your finals experience. We showed LeBron James with those 10. You've got 2 championships under your belt, but you also have the distinction, Kenny, of being a part of the lowest seeded team to win a championship with your 1995 Houston Rockets. What was that journey like?
Well, the journey was, fun, honestly, because every game was on the road, so we weren't thinking that we were going to have a home court advantage and have to go. We knew we had to win on the road. And, I think you bond better. It felt like a bubble. I don't know how those guys are feeling down there, but it felt like a bubble for us. The ability to just kind of lock in because you're always on the road starting off for 2 games. So that means you would be in a city for a week. And so you'd eat together, you do things together, you go to movies. We felt like we were in a bubble, Stephanie, during that time.
Well, it certainly showed. As we said, you won the championship, your second of 2. Isaiah Thomas, you have some familiarity with the finals. We're looking at this Miami Heat team. They are definitely considered the underdogs, even though they don't want to be called that. Isaiah, what's your take on the play of Jimmy Butler and what he brings to the table?
He's an unselfish max player that in this era you really don't see. Normally the max player on the team, he wants all the shots, he wants all the food, he wants all the minutes, he wants all the time, he wants everything. Jimmy is a max player who has come to the Miami Heat and has become a great teammate and a very unselfish player. Now, in this era, what that has allowed the other Miami Heat players to do is to grow and mature and develop comfortably. Shaq talked about his favorite player, Tyler Hero. If Jimmy Butler is a selfish max player and not a great teammate, Hero doesn't develop the way he's developed. You look at a guy like Bam, who's been allowed to insert his personality into the team. So Jimmy Butler is an old school, classic throwback NBA player who dominates the game with his fundamental skills, not necessarily his great athleticism, not necessarily his great height. He basically is a great teammate that has allowed the Miami Heat to become a championship caliber team And that's the importance and the greatness of Jimmy Butler right now, is his unselfishness as a max player in this era of play.
Well,
Stephanie, before you go, I just got something to say, man, because these dudes guys they're flexing really hard right now. Shaq, can we go to the 4 screen first of all? Shaq has the 4 trophies. Let's go to the 4 screen. Not this single with me. No, I need to see the 4 screen with all 4 of us, and I just need to die.